So the extermination of the inferior race. Second one, look again, the promotion of European immigration. And the last one is the incorporation of the naturals. Not people, but the incorporation of the naturals to civilization. So this is one of the things that happens, is that this book, La Raza Cósmica, is published and is sold in every Latin American country. It becomes a major bestseller. To this day, it is considered to be one of the most important books written by an intellectual. It is a bunch of nonsense. Right? So this is mass-produced, mass-consumed. This one, nobody sees but a few bankers that are interested in the state of the economy in this report. But this is the reality. This is the real mindset. This is where they're really showing their true colors. Right? In 1937 in Peru, Alejandro Delstra, who at this time was the Secretary of Education, said this about indigenous people. It is all right to use the mechanical abilities of the Indians, even better, to protect and defend him against all his abusers, and that we introduce him to hygienic practices currently lacking in him. But we shouldn't go any further, sacrificing resources that would be fruitless in this pursuit, and that would be better spent in satisfying other urgent social needs. The Indian is not and cannot be but a machine. This is 1937, right? And this man, the Secretary of Education, is saying that the indigenous people are nothing but a machine. Again, where's the proof? Show me the proof. This is 1937 now. 1940, in Colombia, Luis Lopez de Mesa, again talking about indigenous people, said, "It is notable the persistence of undesirable behavior, such as the lack of respect for others' belongings, the cold cruelty, almost clumsy, of their punishments and revenges, the perversion of their sexual relations, including incest, lying and falsity in all their expressions, drunkenness, in an attempt to escape reality." It almost sounds like if he was describing the Spaniards that came back in 1492. But, you know, that's another story. This is 1940. This is a comic book that was published, began to be published in the 1930s in Mexico. It used to be called Pepín, and then it became Memín Pingüín. It's supposed to be a little black boy in Mexico. Now look at this. Look at this portrayal. Who is Memín's mom? Who is she? You know this. Aunt Jemima. Right? You had it. Why didn't you say it? Aunt Jemima, right? You didn't know she lived in Mexico, did you? She traveled. So here's what I want you to look at. Look at him, look at her, and look at the dogs. Who looks more real? The dogs, right? Now, the Mexican government made up a postal stamp a few years ago, and there was some reaction from people around the world about this racist depiction of a supposedly black boy, and they got very defensive. Right? The president of Mexico at the time, Fox, said to the masses, "You don't understand our culture. We love this little guy." Now, I would have loved to have been in that conversation. I would have asked him, if you love this little guy, why don't you portray him as a human being? Because that doesn't look like a human being to me. This is a cartoon from Peru. This is one of the most famous soccer players in Peruvian history, Alejandro Villanueva. And he is known as one of the best soccer players in Peruvian history. Now, this little thing here is embedded with a lot of stereotypes about black men. So I'm going to break it down for you. First of all, look at the depiction. It looks like a monkey, a mix of monkey and devil, right? In bad Spanish, because that's how black people talk, sort of like Ebonics in the United States. In bad Spanish, he's saying, "Come on, whitey, take me on." Now this white guy is scared out of his mind and is calling this guy to come back and help him. And there's this little guy here hiding also. So 3 white men are scared of 1 black man. So the aggressiveness, right? The challenging, always you know, sort of trying to beat somebody up. That's the image that is portrayed here. Right? Here's another depiction of the same man. Very different, right? Doesn't look like the one before. Now, this is what he really looked like. Now, here's the thing. I know that caricatures are not portraits. You know that. But if you look at it, you should be able to tell who it is. If I look at this, I can't tell that this is the man that is being portrayed. So notice how the imagination, the mental imagination in this society is so deeply embedded into seeing these people as monkeys. That that's the depiction of black people. This is another one of my meat Pinguin. Look at the contrast between him and his friends. Now, in 1994, there was some immigration from Bolivia and Peru into Argentina. People looking for better economic life. And mostly poor people, mostly indigenous people from those of these places. Amilcar Argüelles used to be the Secretary of Health in Argentina. He wasn't at this point anymore, but he wrote a letter to the main newspaper in Argentina complaining about this immigration from these groups of people. And he said, as a result of this immigration, a decline in the intellectual capacity of our population due to underdeveloped migrations will condemn the country to a truncated and partial state of development. This is 1994. Again, maybe we got away with not providing any proof back in 1904, but this is 1994. Okay, so if you're going to say something like this, and you used to be the Secretary of Health, we should expect some data, some statistic data, some study that was done to lead to that conclusion. None is offered. We're simply saying the presence of these people is going to lead to a truncated state of development. This is a comic strip found in a Puerto Rican website in 2001. It's supposed to be in the funny section. This is supposed to be a joke. They're portraying people in Africa, and all their stereotypes about African people are embedded in here. First of all, they're savages. They don't wear any clothing. They live in huts. Look at the distorted features. The hypersexualized nature of black people. And the last one is the over-endowed male. All of that is embedded in here. Now, what's really deep is that Puerto Ricans are black. So they're actually saying this about themselves. Right? Notice again the psychology and how years of exposure to racist ideology leads to one, now even a black person in Puerto Rico being able to produce something like this and being okay with it. This is a candy bar sold in Peru, Doña Pepa. It's a chocolate-covered wafer. So a couple of things are going on here. First of all, you see the cleaned-up version of Aunt Jemima, but it's still Aunt Jemima. Black and chocolate are always associated. Black people and chocolate are always associated. The other connection that is being made through here is that black women are always cooking for us. So in this little wrapper for this candy bar, this is the imagery that's being put forth. This is another product from Peru, Negrita. The same thing. Aunt Jemima, the same thing as a black woman in the kitchen cooking for us. This one is even more appalling. This is a bag of charcoal for your grill, Negrito, which can be loosely translated into little black one. Right? This is being sold in Peru today. Do you think that I could bring this and sell it here in the United States? It wouldn't last by 30 seconds, right? I'll be ran out of the country. But it's being sold in Peru today. Now here's what happens, right? I walk into my cousin's kitchen a few years back when I saw this, and I took a picture of this because now I can do some research when I go to Latin America, right? So everything kind of pops out at me. So I'm taking a picture of this, and my family's going crazy now. They say, well, you haven't been here for 12 years. And the first thing you take a picture of is a bag of charcoal. What's wrong with you? I'm out of my mind. Right? So I turned around and I asked them, I said, why don't you see? Guess what they said? See what? See, you're so deeply embedded in this that this means nothing to you. Now, we only have 5% of a black population in Peru. So I can guarantee you that black people in Peru see this and they're not happy.